Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CTO Coffee Chat Fridays. I'm joined here with Deniziak. He's our data architect at CPS. Trevor Cohen, my normal co-host, is on vacation, so Chris has volunteered to share a little bit of insight into our data and analytics practice. So as a reminder, at CPS, I'm the CTO and co-founder. We hold these coffee chats really to talk about relevant topics that we are seeing with our customers and what's happening in the market. So happy Friday, Chris.
Happy
Coffee
Friday, Justin.
Friday. Thanks
it's a little
for
too late for coffee, so I'll go with water.
All right, there you go. Well, in this conversation, thanks for joining me, Chris. We really want to talk about data governance at the onset of everything we're seeing and that we do with CPS. It's always processing data. So I think this is a great conversation, a really value add that we provide our customers. So for today's conversation, can you give our audience just what is data governance?
Yep. Yeah. So I will read you the definition from Gartner, which is data governance is the specification of decision rights in an accountability framework to ensure the appropriate behavior in the valuation, creation, consumption, and control of data and analytics. Quite a mouthful, but what I would say that boils down to is it's really a set of rules, regulations, whatever you want to call them, around data and how to actually use it and how you can use it to create value.
Interesting. So a lot of the, it's not a technology, it's not a platform, it's really a framework for data.
Yeah, a lot of people think a tool is going to make, their data governed and fix everything that they need, but it's not really a tool. It's the guidelines that you follow to actually put it into place.
Interesting. Almost like our government and all the different laws and regulations we have, but really focusing on data.
Yeah. So when you think of it, something happens and you have a problem. How do you correct the problem? You put a new law into place or a new rule in terms of data governance.
Excellent.
Or a new policy or a new procedure. There's tons of things that you can do, but again, it's a framework, so you can do it how you need to.
Now, does everyone have the same framework? In the US, we have to follow certain laws and regulations required, but then, you have federal and state and local. When you think about data governance as it relates to our customers, is every customer going to have the same data governance laws, policies, procedures?
No, they'll have the same ideas around how they work with their data and how they want to actually govern the data, but you'll have international companies that'll have to apply GDPR to their data. You'll have other companies that are dealing in healthcare, and they have to worry about any rules and regulations in that industry. But overall, there's a set of rules that you want to follow just in general. But some companies may need to add more. Some may need to just follow the framework as is. So you can do that, but there's always exceptions to it.
Awesome. So if you're thinking about why we have laws and all of the policies, procedures, why do you think customers should implement a data governance program? Why should they have data governance throughout their organization?
Yeah, so good question. There's a lot of data that's being created every single day, every single year, and that data is compounding year over year. So as you're developing and creating new things, you're creating new data with it. And with that data volume comes the need to actually regulate that data and keep it in line so it can be usable and it can create value for your organization. So that I would say is the main reason, is to create more value. Understanding your customers is one thing, but if you have multiple developers that are bringing data in and they're not following the same rules, you're not going to be able to create value from that, because you're going to have to spend more and more time cleaning it, making sure that it's usable than it would be if you're spending time actually creating these rules and policies and procedures to put into place to actually bring value in a more streamlined fashion.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of the term that we talk about a lot, is data as an asset. Back in the day, it was just data was there and it was put in place in systems and it just stored, but no one was really using it to provide that value that you're saying to their organization, to really understand their customers or sales or vendors or buying patterns and things of that nature. So as data becomes more of an asset for organizations, having a data governance plan is pertinent to have in place. So that's really, interesting, as we start to think about data. At CPS, we have data that is generated by people, it's generated by systems, it's generated by devices. Now we're talking about IoT devices sending all the sensor data. So what do we do with that?
Yep. Yeah. If you're not paying attention to your data, you'll have the newest term is data lake, and the newest way to manage that data the wrong way is turning into a data swamp.
Oh.
So you're just collecting data, not doing anything with it, and you're just collecting it where it becomes no longer an asset and it's more of a liability. So data governance around that too, that's another piece to that puzzle, I would say.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to collect all this data and pile it up and just be paying for it and not do anything with it, right?
Yep, that's another thing.
Talking to you, it's always about the why. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? What are the goals that you're trying to get out of this? And then we can put a system, process, visualizations in place to actually do that.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, the last question I have for you in this quick coffee chat that we're having here is, data governance is, is a broad topic. It's a framework, but I'd like to maybe have the viewers here understand what are some of the components inside of data governance. If you ask CPS, I'd like you to help me stand up a data governance really around my company, tailor it to my specific needs. What are the components that are part of a data governance program?
Yep. So it would start out pretty similar to a regular project, right? So you'll have your initiation, which is basically identifying what you're trying to do and for whom. Then you would move into your assessment, where you would assess your current state of the business, understand how things are working currently, why they might be working that way, if there's any rules or regulations that you might be already following that you may not be actually aware of. So understanding. And then your next step is to develop that vision. So where do I want to take this? How do I want to roll it out to my organization? What are my requirements? And then my next step after that, there are quite a few steps. So next step is really aligning that business value and understanding why you're doing this. Why do we actually need the data to be structured, or why do we actually need it to be clean? Those are questions that people don't really think about, but really should when they're thinking about working with data. After that, you actually can get into developing everything in the program. So your policies, your procedures, anything like that. The next step from there is really getting to the ownership and responsibilities. So, a lot of organizations just say, oh, IT is responsible for our data, and they don't really take ownership of it. And that's how you start to create some, what we would call technical debt, in terms of, well, we don't really have our data straight, so we need to go back and rework it instead of spending the time up front to do it. And then after that, you're really just figuring out how to roll that out to your organization, thinking of change management, thinking of, who's actually going to be running the program day to day, because it is going to be something that you'll need to start right off the bat of thinking with, who's going to do this. After, maybe a few years, it might be something that's more of it runs itself. But until then, you need to understand how it runs, why it runs. Again, we're getting to that why and understanding why we need this. So quite a few steps, but those are basically your steps in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the beginning, starts with the understanding the why, and then it transforms into what you need to do. And then, you can relate it back to, as we've been talking about, our government and how it was formed, and the Declaration of Independence, and starting to build upon those rules and constantly monitoring and, updating things. We know a certain amount of our customers are implementing new technologies or bringing on new systems. One customer is bringing on a new point of sale system. And when you bring on a new point of sale system, that data is already, kind of formulated in this data governance plan. There's a person that's responsible. We know where the data is flowing. Well, now we know we need to go update all of this for this new system. So if you have something in place, the benefit is that you know exactly where your project's going to go in this new implementation. So yeah, I really, the components are excellent. The way you describe them from start to finish, and making sure that it's an understanding that it's not like a project where it just has a start date and end date. It's constantly evolving, and you can almost think of it as a once a month kind of meeting of the data governance team to constantly see what projects are coming in, how data, how are you capturing the data. So excellent.
Yeah, definitely still runs similar to a program or a project, but it is a program. It's not going to have, like you said, your end date. You'll need to constantly nurture that program to make sure that it is continually successful.
Excellent. Well, Chris, I do appreciate you joining us on these quick coffee chats. Friday is always a good day to take a step back and have a conversation on data governance. So, as a reminder for all of our viewers, go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel. Also visit clearprocesssolutions.com. Until next time in our next coffee chat, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, Chris.